It wasn't my plan to be there after dark. I had only come to return a set of programs I'd borrowed from the archive room. The theater had asked for them back before the weekend. A friend at the box office had let me in with a quiet nod, the kind of nod that trusted me to know my way. I thought I'd be 10 minutes, 15 at most. But time in a theater has its own curtain, and once it falls, you lose track of how long you've been in your seat. The building was in half light when I entered. The main doors closed behind me with a hollow hush, a sound like velvet being pulled across a table. The lobby chandeliers glowed faintly, their bulbs dimmed to pearls. Posters from past shows lined the walls, faces caught mid-expression, names in typefaces that had gone out of fashion and come back again. The box office window was empty, the little stool pushed back under the counter. A handwritten sign leaned against the glass. Back soon. I held the slim stack of programs against my chest and stepped into the inner lobby. The carpet was thick, patterned with faded fleur-de-lis. A grandfather clock in the corner ticked with a patient authority. It was not the time on the clock that mattered. It was the rhythm, steady and sure, the kind of sound that resets your breathing without asking. Somewhere deeper in the building, a door clicked, a latch falling into place. I felt it in the air before I heard it. The building was closing. I should have hurried back out, waved at my friend at the desk, said goodnight. Instead, I lingered. The theater, half asleep and half awake, invited me. It is hard to refuse an invitation that wears velvet gloves. I made my way to the main auditorium. The heavy doors opened with a sound like a sigh. Inside, the house was dark except for the faint glow of aisle lights. Row after row of seats stretched forward, their fabric a muted red, worn smooth by decades of hands and coats. The stage curtain hung full and silent, a mountain of cloth holding back silence itself. I walked down the central aisle slowly, as though I were arriving late to a performance I had already paid for. I slid into a seat halfway down, program still in hand. The seat gave a gentle creak, as if acknowledging me. The air smelled faintly of sawdust, paint, and the perfume of long-faded evenings. I could almost hear the echoes of applause that had once filled this room like summer rain. The announcement came then, soft and clear through the ceiling speakers. The theater will be closing in 10 minutes. The voice had no urgency, only courtesy. It floated above me and then dissolved into the velvet. I smiled to myself. 10 minutes was plenty. 10 minutes was a lifetime in a place like this. I leaned back, letting the armrests hold me. The ceiling arched high, painted with fading constellations. A crescent moon shimmered faintly, its gilt worn at the edges. I breathed and felt the theater breathe with me. A faint hum in the walls, a quiet vibration in the floorboards beneath the stage. The sound of a building at rest, like a body dozing but not yet dreaming. 5 minutes later, the lights shifted. Not off, but lower, as if the building were dimming itself the way you lower your voice when a child has fallen asleep. The aisle lights glowed a shade softer. The chandeliers in the lobby blinked and stilled. The curtain at the front gave the smallest shiver, though no draft touched it. Then came the final announcement, calm and certain. The theater is now closed. A lock turned. Somewhere in the lobby, the doors sealed themselves with a click that was both ordinary and absolute. I rose from my seat and walked up the aisle. The exit doors pushed back but held firm, the handles unmoved by my hand. Beyond the glass, the city lay silver in the streetlights, close enough to touch, as unreachable as a memory. I was inside. The theater had closed around me. I laughed softly. It was not fear, not yet. It was curiosity dressed as patience. I had nowhere urgent to be, no one waiting for me this hour. I had a chair, a stage, a quiet building that knew more about night than I did. I let it have me. The hush of a theater at night is unlike any other. Libraries breathe softly. Museums hold their silence like glass. Theaters hum. The walls remember voices, and those voices return when the lights go out. I sat again, this time closer to the stage. The curtain loomed, a vast sleeping creature. I thought of what it hides. Painted flats leaning on their braces, ropes thick as wrists, ladders that lead to bridges above the stage where only a few ever climb. A forest of possibilities asleep behind a single fall of fabric. A sound came then, a footstep, light deliberate from somewhere above. I looked up. The balcony was empty, but the seat cushions seemed pressed, as if someone had just risen. I listened. The sound repeated, a soft tread crossing overhead. My heart did not race. It slowed, adjusting itself to the rhythm of the footfalls. The sound moved toward the stairs, but no figure appeared. The building had taken its place in the cast. Another sound joined, a chair folding, row by row, as though invisible patrons were leaving in an orderly fashion. The seats lifted and clicked, one at a time, from the back row forward. I turned to watch them. No one was there. Only the suggestion of presence, like the faintest perfume lingering after a dancer has left the stage. The air carried the hush of applause not yet begun. The curtain stirred again. This time, a line of light bled through at the bottom, pale and gold, as if something luminous waited behind. I rose and walked to the edge of the orchestra pit. The light pulsed faintly in and out like breath. I wanted to part the curtain, but my hands stayed at my sides. The building had chosen its pace, and I was only an audience member. A whisper drifted down, not words, only the shape of words. The kind of murmur that comes before the overture when the house waits together. I closed my eyes and let it wash over me. The sound was warm, layered, full of expectation without demand. It asked nothing of me but to sit and listen. So I sat. The stage brightened faintly behind the curtain, enough to throw thin shadows on the floor. The rigging creaked as if ropes tightened in unseen hands. A draft passed over me, carrying the faintest scent of roses, though no flowers lived in this hall. My head tilted back, and for a moment I thought I saw the painted constellations realign. Stars shifted, forming a figure with arms outstretched. When I blinked, they were gone. Hours may have passed, or minutes. In a theater, time is less a clock and more a script. Scenes follow each other whether you keep track or not. I wandered the aisles, ran a hand along the seatbacks. The fabric was worn smooth, almost silky. In one chair, I found a playbill folded and forgotten, its pages yellowed, its ink faded but legible. The Tempest, it read, dates from decades ago. Someone had underlined a name in the cast list, circled it twice. I wondered if they had sat where I now stood, circling their beloved's name, waiting for the curtain to rise. The whispering grew into voices. Not loud, not clear, just a layering of tone. A woman laughing softly, a man clearing his throat, the rustle of programs. An audience gathering where none should be. I sat in the center row and closed my eyes. The voices swelled, hushed, swelled again, the way a tide plays with the shore. I felt surrounded, but not alone. Kept, held in a theater's memory. From a stage, a sound emerged, the faint stroke of a bow across strings. A violin testing itself. Then silence. Then again, two notes, careful, almost shy. They lingered in the air, waiting for company. But no company came. Only those two notes, again and again, circling like a moth around a lamp. I whispered into the dark, "I hear you." The notes ceased. The curtain trembled once more. A sigh seemed to pass through the entire hall. I rose and wandered backstage. The door was ajar, as though left open for me. The corridor beyond smelled of paint, canvas, and old rope. Costumes hung on racks, their sequins dull in the low light. A row of mirrors reflected me back in faded bulbs, each mirror showing me softer, less distinct, as if I were already a ghost in their world. I touched one frame lightly and felt a warmth that should not have been there. On a table lay a stack of scripts, their corners curled, their margins inked with notes. Pause here. Softer. Wait for laughter. I read them like prayers. Each word was a cue for a moment that had once been alive in this space. I closed the script gently, as though to let the words rest again. Deeper backstage, a trapdoor yawned. I stood over it, feeling the air rise from below, cool and damp. Somewhere beneath, the machinery of illusion slept. I did not descend. Some doors are for looking only. I stepped back and let the shadows close it again. Returning to the stage, I found the curtain drawn halfway now, revealing a slice of wooden floor. A single chair sat there, center stage, its back to me. Empty, waiting. I climbed the stairs and crossed the boards. My footsteps echoed softly, the only true sound in a hall of echoes. I touched the chair. It rocked faintly, though I had not yet moved it. The sense of waiting deepened. I sat, facing the dark auditorium, and then I felt it. The gaze of hundreds, though no seats were filled. A hush fell, heavier than silence. My breath slowed. My heart obeyed the rhythm of an unseen conductor. For a moment, I was both actor and audience, held in a performance of stillness. The building knew me. I knew it. That was enough. When I rose, the chair remained rocking, slow, deliberate, as though bowing. I stepped back, and the curtain closed itself with a softness that felt like gratitude. The whispering faded. The lights dimmed further. Time stretched, then folded. At last, dawn crept through the high windows. Pale light replaced the aisle lamps. The chandeliers brightened, steady and real. The lock at the lobby doors clicked open. The building exhaled. Morning had found its cue. I walked up the aisle one last time. The seats were still. The curtain hung calm. The stage smelled faintly of dust and roses. At the lobby desk, the back soon sign had shifted, its angle now almost playful. The grandfather clock chimed once, a low and resonant note. I placed the programs on the counter and whispered, "Thank you." Outside, the city stirred. Buses sighed. Footsteps hurried. A vendor rolled up a shutter. I stepped into the light, carrying with me the hush of voices that never leave a theater. The doors closed gently behind me, sealing their stories inside until the next performance, or the next lost soul who lingers too long after curtain call. And in my pocket, where I had kept the old playbill, a faint trace of rose remained, reminding me that some stages never really empty and some nights never fully end.